We hereby call this meeting of the Fan Ghouls Club to order. My name is Brielle.
I'm Hayley, and welcome to Book Talk. I was so confident. Okay.
I'm Brielle.
And I'm Hayley, and welcome to Book Club. All right.
That's all.
This is Book Club, and we are here to discuss the final book in the Throne of Glass series, Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas. We are more than halfway through. We are I'd say, almost in the home stretch.
Yeah, definitely.
This week we will be discussing chapters 67 through 77. We read 11 chapters a week, and we discuss on here every Monday.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy that it's our 8th episode already.
Yes.
Like 8th discussion hour-long episode. That's crazy.
Yeah. And then this one officially started part 2 of the book.
That's right.
So I'm assuming that just means this is where all like the heavy stuff's about to go down.
I know, and I do feel like we've already had plenty of heavy, so I'm very, very, very scared, and I think we've mentioned that many times. I'm scared.
But first,
oh yes,
as Julie always says, Hayley, what did you fangirl over this week?
You go first.
I feel almost ashamed saying this because it's just so...
What?
Pumpkin flavored stuff is back.
PSL. PSL.
And I know that sounds...
Just say it.
Very basic white bitch of me, and it is, and I get it. But it's just the official start of all the stuff to come as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just really excited that happened. So yes, I had my pumpkin cream cold brew. But I'm also just ready to officially kick off my Stranger Things rewatch for the fall.
Yes.
I'm ready to start baking. I'm ready for all the Halloween stuff to kick in.
I love that. I think I'm in a similar boat here this week. I stepped outside earlier this week, and I was like, oh my God, I smell brewing. Fall. Yeah, like I smelled it, and it
in
felt...
the 90-degree LA weather.
But in the mornings, it's getting getting crispier.
I know the sun's starting to go down earlier, so yeah.
Well, speaking of starting your rewatch, I think my fangirl moments of the week have been just me starting my Gilmore Girls rewatch. I started last weekend.
Do you think this is?
I think this is probably like almost the 9th or 10th time that I've watched the series fully, because I fully intend on watching all of it. I'm fangirling over it this time around because I feel like every time you watch, anyone who watches their favorite show, like, you pay attention to different characters, and you obviously always find new things. But I would say that for Gilmore Girls in particular, like, the references, it's so fun to rewatch this series because as you get older, like, the more references you understand.
Yeah, you start getting more things.
Yeah. And this is a very, like, niche Hayley fangirl thing. The amount of times that they reference The Lord of the Rings.
Did you never pick up on that before?
Like, a couple of times. I mean, there's one whole episode where Lorelai and Suki do the kids' birthday party, like Lord of the Rings theme. Yeah. And then I know there are a couple of references I've caught, but like, well, specifically, I've been watching my edits, of course, on TikTok, and there's one where it like does all the Lord of the Rings references, and there are
throughout the whole series,
so many.
Oh,
and into a year in the life, and really just to see Jess.
Yay!
Yeah, and I love Emily. I'm loving Emily right now.
Mm-hmm. I know. The more I watch it, the more I realize, like, Lorelai, what are you mad about?
I know. It's like you get it, but you're also like, but we love Emily and Richard.
Yeah.
Oh, so very fall-esque fangirl moments of the week.
Off.
And now I have something I need to discuss with you.
Okay.
It's just sort of like an open topic. I just want to know if you feel the same way, basically. So I was thinking about it today, and I thought about how when we were kids reading Harry Potter for the first time, you also felt like you were going to get a letter from Hogwarts, right? Like when you were 11, you were like you really thought you were going to get a letter? Because I did.
I don't know if I just dressed. I was Hermione for Halloween.
Yeah.
I already had the big curly poofy hair, so I literally didn't need to do much.
Yeah.
I just put on my little Gryffindor robe. And I had many Harry Potter parties, like growing up. Like Halloween parties or birthday parties were all Harry Potter themed.
You were more based in reality than I was.
I fangirled.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
So early on. Yeah.
I flash, and then I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, then I flash forward to when I was reading Twilight. And at 15, I also had thoughts in my head that I was going to meet and fall in love with a vampire. And, like, potentially they would turn me.
In Connecticut?
Yeah, like, it's rainy there.
It rained.
It can be rainy. And a vampire is going to come and, like, turn me into their vampire bride.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like stuff like that, especially, like, growing up being, like, obsessed with Twilight is, like, half the reason that, you know, we have unrealistic expectations.
Yeah. It's truly fangirl fantasies. Like, it's just, I'm just thinking about that lately, and I'm like, I really, like, I think it was a deep-seated, like, wish. Like, I really, really wanted it to happen so badly
Your
that I thought it might.
fantasy is like.
And now, at 31, I'm having a similar experience.
Spider-Man?
Well, yeah, that, first of all, that Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is going to actually catch me and and carry me away.
Not let you die.
But no, I'm thinking that like an evil fairy king is going to show up at my Los Angeles apartment door with a giant cauldron, and they're going to drop me into it, and I'm going to come out an immortal fairy queen. And like, that's my new
thought.
Yeah. Do you think about that?
Not that they would show up with a cauldron directly.
Like, come, I'll take you to the cauldron.
I'm often like, where is Valaris and how do I get there?
I know. Anyone out there watching this?
Does anyone know?
Anyone out there being like, just get to the freaking book already. Watching this being like, just let us know. Any place that you think might resemble Valaris?
There's that place in Switzerland everyone goes to.
Okay, after we go to Forks, Washington next year,
Switzerland.
We'll go to Switzerland and we'll go to Valaris.
That sounds good.
That's it.
So basically, your unrealistic fangirl fantasies throughout your whole life. But you would jump down the rabbit hole if you had the choice.
Yeah, it's just fangirl fantasy. Like, I just have them. Yeah. Like, so strong.
And we also grew up on a lot of fantasy type of stuff.
It's just the beauty of reading all this stuff, I think, is it's fun. It's so fun.
It's bringing back all the things I used to,
Yeah. You know, we're watching all those videos these days of like, oh, this is what's great about doing this in your 30s. Like, it brings you back to all those times. It's so much fun.
I know.
Speaking of 30.
Good segue.
Can you reach?
Yeah, I think I can. It might be a little noisy. We'll do balloon ASMR.
You guys.
Is it wrong?
Yep. Thank
you. Is it this way?
No. Wait, no. Other way. Wow, everyone.
Wow.
We hit 30 subscribers on YouTube. It's so exciting.
I know.
Thank you, guys.
Well, now, actually, today it was 37, but...
Yeah, but, you know, we're celebrating.
We still got the balloon.
Yeah, these are from Brielle's 30th birthday. We're celebrating 30 subscribers.
Yay!
We're in the 30s club.
We did it.
Yay! Thank you, everyone, for subscribing, and we're excited to bring you more. I mean, we have been utterly and severely depressed reading this book, but we're hoping to bring you some fun, ghoulish, spooky fun times in the fall.
Yeah, as much as we don't want to finish this book, let alone this whole series, and we are pre-depressed about it before it's even happening, we are excited to venture out and do other stuff too as well.
Definitely.
So, and then we'll eventually have to pick out what our next book club will be. So
yeah, exactly.
That'll be fun too.
So many fun things on the horizon, and we thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Shall we?
We want.
So this is going to be chapters 67 through 77. And 67 is the last chapter of part 1.
That was a fun thing of like, oh wait, first chapter. And then we finished it and I was like, oh, part 2.
I know. You want to kick us off?
Sure.
Okay.
Episode 8. Chapter 67. Starting on page 577. A lot of sevens.
Line 1.
77. Line 1. All right. So what did happen here? Yes. So we have Aelin and Rowan kind of walking through the remnants of the deadly battle. And once again, she's all like stoic, and Rowan's kind of like following her, like, what are you doing? What's going on? And she's just like
contemplating.
Yeah. And he's always like, can you please just tell me what the hell's going on?
It's like on The Bachelor, they do all those contemplative shots of the people in like on the balcony.
She's looking out to like what used to be all this water, but she just evaporated it. There's all these dead bodies over here. So he's following her, and along the way, she's like picking up all these weapons that she thinks will be useful for her to take, which is funny.
So resourceful.
And everyone else has dispersed to do kind of like their own tasks. Like Elide's still helping all the healers. You know, everyone else is talking about the plans to go north, and they're about to head up north in about 2 days. Miss Girl suddenly has a grand idea of thinking, if she can heal these Valg soldiers, could Irene also heal Maeve and Erewhon?
Oof, this was a tough conversation. Now I'm remembering.
And I suddenly was like,
hold on.
Aelin, I'm usually with you. But, so yeah, that halted me for a second.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but she did say that Irene is the greatest weapon we have. So that was kind of the main topic of this conversation.
Yeah.
And Aelin asked Rowan, like, would you let me do it? Like, if I was carrying your child, would you let me even get close to them? And he's like, no. Aelin asked Rowan and Bort,
we're going to do this until the end of time.
To help her look through all the wordmark books.
Oh, yeah.
And a cute note was that Rowan didn't know all of the language, but remembered most of what Aelin did teach him and the others throughout the group lessons. So that was cute.
Mm-hmm.
They basically alluded to that they're looking for an alternate way, some sort of spell or something to close the gate.
Without using a sacrifice.
Without all the keys and the sacrifice and everything. See if there's some sort of spell that would be able to close the word gate.
Mm-hmm.
We move over to Kale and his dad are in another fight. Basically, the dad still refuses to give any land to the wild folk.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're just arguing about that. And Kale basically just said, well, I outrank you, so I can and I will. And that's how that conversation goes. And so Daddy-O here tries to guilt Kale into, no, don't do it. What could I do to convince you not to do it? And Kale says, nothing. I'm already a rich man and have everything that I need.
Kale, we love you.
And then so he goes, you know what about this? And he showed him a trunk full of letters that he stored away this whole time. Letters that Kale's mom wrote for Kale. Years worth of letters all of this time that he left and was in Adarlan. And then we also, with this, find out that is why Kale's mom ended up leaving.
Yep.
Taking the other son and leaving because she found this trunk full of letters and was like, you never sent all of these letters that I wrote after all these years.
Horrible.
And Kale's dad basically said, like, it was because he wanted to punish Kale for leaving, of thinking, like, his family wasn't thinking of him, that they were all just mad and didn't love him anymore.
Yeah.
All of that. So Kale said, I don't make bargains with bastards. And he stormed out and said, I don't need to look at these letters. He mic dropped on his own father.
Mm-hmm.
So then they all left for their final push north. Aelin led the army up the mountain while she did a little glowing, just for show. As she does, to be a beacon of light, bright light in the shadows of the mountains. And Aelin lit the way north.
It was a good chapter. basically just a wrap up of our time in Aniel.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, the conversation between Rowan and Aelin was tough. It was like, you know, I feel like every time they make some progress and push forward, there's something that's kind of hurling Aelin back. Like afterwards almost. I think she seems kind of uncertain about which fair.
Mm-hmm.
But the conversation about Irene was really tough. How she was like, is it better to make, you know, potentially have to make this one sacrifice, Irene, for the better of the world?
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, it felt so icky to me. I don't know. Yeah. It's one thing for Aelin to talk about herself, which I don't want that to happen, of course. And even her talking about Dorian making the sacrifice. Because they've talked about it. And they're aware of that situation.
But, like, why bring Irene
Just don't bring
it?
Irene into it.
She's pregnant.
I know. It's just, I don't want that at all.
Was her thought, like, so she's curious now of thinking, are their bodies actually theirs, or are they infested too? Is that the question? Do they risk trying to heal them to see if they are normal people inside? You know what I mean? Like, are their bodies actually theirs? Is that her question? Like, is it worth trying to heal those bodies?
Yeah, I think she's now aware that these bodies have been overtaken by these other beings.
Yeah.
So that would in her mind it makes sense that Irene could do this potentially.
Yeah.
But like how?
And it was a little...
With the powers that they both had, like...
She wouldn't even be able to get close to them without...
I know.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm like, no. Too soon to even, like, ponder this. You've seen her cure one... I mean, she's cured, like, 10 a day so far, but Aelin's only seen Irene cure one.
Once. Some random, like, Valg soldier, you know?
It's worth it to weigh all the options.
Mm-hmm.
This was just kind of a shock. Oh! 580. On page 580, they are reading about winnowing.
Oh, yeah.
It was just one little thing that I noticed. Like winnowing in terms of like jumping between into like mini portals within the world, your own world.
So basically, I feel like that is them learning that. Maeve learned that.
Yeah.
It's not just like a natural power that she was burst with.
Yes. Also interesting, like, I mean, I know it's a sensitive topic right now, but why not expand on this conversation and bring Fenris into it with...
Yeah. Could he get his power back now, kind of?
Yeah, could he relearn? Maybe that'll be a thing.
Stronger than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, all this talk about now, like, in the middle of the actual war, being like, maybe we can find a way. And I get it. Like, please try. But there's also so much going on.
I know.
There's so much to do. I don't know. And to seek these answers without Dorian. And, like, it's just, while he's actively
still trying.
Gonna do it. Yeah. If he finds them, supposedly.
I know.
I just want them all to be together so that they can, like, make these decisions.
I know. Because having them all still be, I didn't think this whole,
they're still apart, and Aelin, she's wild. She's just like a wild card.
She's
I
wild.
mean, right now, it's just, I don't know what she's really thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts. But Kale's just Mr. Tough Guy. Like, he's just like, oh, well, I outrank you. I'm not going to play these games.
Yeah.
We have too much shit to do.
Yeah.
And I love that.
He wasn't.
I've always loved that about him.
To even like try to read the letters. What did he say?
He's so like
you know what? You can keep all the letters because maybe that will be the only way that you get to remember her by now since she left you. Ooh. He was a little sassy.
So many mic drop moments.
I know.
Anything else about this chap?
No, but in the final, page or whatever, it's just them officially heading north, and then. Part 2.
Yes. And I think that said that it's going to take them 5 days.
That's it? I thought it was way more than that.
hold on. Maybe the 5-day journey through the gap, like the
like just to get through those mountains.
I think that's what it
to
is.
the gap first.
To the gap.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
To the gap.
To the gap. In part, yes.
Let's
sorry.
go to the gap.
In part 2, Gods and Gates. Oh boy. Okay. And I can't believe we're here we're at chapter 68, and Dorian has made it to Morath.
He
after
did it.
An entire book talking about it, debating whether to do it, the witches telling him not to do it, testing him. He has learned to fully shapeshift into, I guess, anything he wants at this point within a matter of, like a week. Not too long. A couple weeks, maybe.
He's the Avatar.
And yeah, he's literally the Avatar. And Dorian has made it to Morath. And now, we know he's after the word key, the final word key, which he knows has to be hidden in Erewhon's grasp somewhere in Morath. And so basically this whole chapter is him arriving in Morath, and he flies in as
an ordinary crow.
Yeah, a little ordinary crow.
Just like Manon predicted.
He's like, nothing special. I know. As Manon, it was like a couple chapters ago, right, where she's looking out in the distance.
She was looking out to the east where he would have flown towards Morath, and she was like, I just know he would have been like an ordinary bird. And then this starts off with, he flew in as an ordinary crow.
I can't deal.
Ordinary crow.
I can't deal with these two. Okay, anyway. So, he is just trying to... so, he's in Morath, and he's flying in as a crow, and he's just trying to find, he's thinking of how, basically the map that the witches drew out for him. Like, here's how it looks and how it works. He's trying to find a way in, and he does. He goes to one of the towers, I think, and he disguises himself as a mouse. And he's sort of just scuttling around, just using his instincts and his newfound mouse smelling senses to make his way towards where he thinks is Erewhon's his meeting chambers. Yeah. So he's a mouse, and he's a mouse, and he's running through these hallways, upstairs, trying to stay in the shadows, trying to stay away, and it's just a lot of imagery here and descriptions of how he's feeling as a mouse, basically. And then he finally hears a couple of guards / Morath workers talking, saying oh, lucky you got out of there before he came, and all of this. And so clearly he's making his way closer to where Erewhon is. And so he finally finds Erewhon's meeting chambers. He runs in to the room, and he hides in the shadows, and he is looking at Erewhon finally, and another person enters the room, and it's this hooded figure, and it turns out that it's Maeve. And so it's not only Erewhon that Dorian is in the room with. Before Maeve even enters, Dorian's gathering his strength and courage to kill Erewhon. He thinks he's just gonna do it right here and now
as a mouse.
Yeah, he's gonna surprise and transform into naked Dorian and just attack him, I guess. But anyway, yeah. So the chapter ends with Dorian, not doing anything because Maeve enters the room, and that's it.
Yes.
And I freaked out.
We haven't seen her or heard anything of her since she left to go get the collar for Aelin.
I know.
So we haven't heard or seen anything about her, or seen if she's discovered that Aelin's escaped, all of that yet.
I know.
So for her to just show up in general, we're oh, finally we get something of Maeve again. But at Morath with poor mouse Dorian in the corner,
I know,
talking to Erewhon, who we thought they were enemies.
Exactly.
So I was
suspicious.
What? I'm
just thinking, oh my god, now it's, and I was wigging, man. I'm oh my god, it's Dorian against Maeve and Erewhon. They're gonna capture him. It's gonna be his whole thing. I was so scared.
I know.
Manon, please come save him.
She's not going back there.
No, definitely not.
We jumped to chapter 69.
Woot.
And we are jumping over to...
Oh, yeah.
To
it's so bleak.
Adian and Lysandra and the others finally arrive at Orinth.
Yes.
And this is where him and Aelin grew up, right? Like, this is...
Yeah, this is like
their
city,
home.
Their palace, yeah.
Okay.
Everything.
So, because Adian is, like, kind of walking around. This part was so sad.
I know.
He's, like, noted how, like, sad Ansel has been. And he, like, really felt for her, but also said that Elias had been comforting her and keeping her company.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, are we all just forgetting that, like, she almost killed him and his father and everyone?
I know.
That part kind of confused me.
Yeah.
So then they all meet up with Darrow.
Womp.
And Murtaugh.
Mm-hmm.
And others. And they're all kind of touching base, seeing what those lords have done so far. Then those men meet Rolf, and they're like, we have you to thank, I suppose. Thanks for that, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you? Like, what? And then Lysandra's all sassy and goes, well, you have Aelin to thank for that.
Yep.
Because she's calling in all these debts and everything. And to try and ease the situation, Murtaugh was like, oh, I have a certain little someone that's here waiting to see you. And he brought Evangeline.
Yay!
So we get to see her again. She's been out
But I'm also like,
ever.
I mean,
Why would you bring her to the war?
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess there's nowhere else. Couldn't leave her.
She runs away to go find her because she hasn't seen her since the beginning of Empire Storms, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, Adian's kind of walking around and he's like having wild memories of being back here and like seeing familiar things and all of that. And then at the end, we finally get somewhat of a normal conversation between Adian and Lysandra, which just made me feel so much better in the throne room. And they were both so just saying and staring at the throne. And, you know, Lysandra was like, I really thought I was going to live to be able to see her, like, sit up there. And he was like, yeah, same. And it was kind of just like, granted, yes, a nice conversation to see that they were talking and not at each other's throats.
Cordially, yeah.
But the conversation was just quite the bummer. And it just really seemed like they both, like, were accepting the fact that they were losing hope. Like,
I know.
It was just kind of not a very positive conversation.
Yeah.
And that was the chapter.
I know. Like, one word to describe it is definitely bleak. Like, when I think we've, not that I've been excited to see Orinth since we've known what we've known about how the war is going. But, you know, you remember way back when Aelin would describe it, it's like this just beautiful green, like kingdom almost with like, you know, water flowing and all this stuff. And it's just gorgeous. And for them to describe it almost worse than Aniel was described is like so sad. You know, it's just like, just grayed and bleak and like it had become a mausoleum, it says. And then to just go from that to, oh God, another Darrow visit. Great.
I know.
But I did note, the one thing I noted about this chapter was how Rolf introduced himself. I was obsessed. Privateer Rolf, commander in Her Majesty's Armada and heir to the Mycenaean people. Like,
where did all those titles come from, bro? Like, he really was like
ready for it.
You know,
I love him.
Like, you know, he would be like, I know we always come back around to talking about some grand show in our mind of this series. I know, but in my mind, like, really reading him, like, you know, he'd be cast as like the comedic relief.
Yep.
Not because he would say like funny quips or anything, but just because he's
such
just
a
the
character.
idea, of this grand pirate lord that's just so like, not an outlaw, but
yeah. Well, he's
in
like
the same way Jack Sparrow was funny. Yeah,
100%.
Seems so separate
because he's the only pirate realized in this book, in this series. I mean, it's just written so well. He is a true pirate. I mean, with the map on his hand, like, come on.
It's so cool,
It's just, I love how they're all quite, like, true fantasy, almost stereotypical, like, by the book, fairies, witches. But the spin that she puts on them is so, makes them, like, so human at the same time. Yeah. And it, like, makes them, I don't know. It's just, I love the way that they're written and how he's written, especially in these moments. Privateer Rolf. I love that. I was glad too to have Adian and Lysandre talk, but I was like, oh my god, like,
it was very bleak. Yeah.
But then I kept saying, I wrote in my notes, but help is coming, because we know that the witches are flying north, and so that's all I kept thinking about.
I know, but like seeing them, like,
help them, please.
Really losing the hope is
I know,
quite the drag.
Yep. So we learn in this chapter that, great, it seems as though, well, we can't assume that this is why. So anyway, Maeve tells Erewhon that all of her commanders, her army, her people, they have all betrayed her. I wonder who did that.
Whoa. This was a cool thing to, like, be able to see.
Yeah.
This conversation. Because he's a shapeshifter, we got this, like, spy POV.
And, like, how cool. Awesome, too, that we're getting it directly from the horse's mouth. Like, because we didn't think we'd see Maeve, and we've been talking about, we haven't seen Erewhon, like, what's he up to? Yeah. So, like, this POV was just such a different, huge shift. Yeah. And we get so much of this in this chunk of chapters, and it's so fun. Yeah. So, yeah, she's just telling Erewhon, like, well, I don't have any people, like, fighting with me. I was never your enemy. And however, your brothers were at one point, although I know how much you care for your brothers, and I want to help you. I want to help you in this, even if so you can just see them again.
I wrote shit 3 times for notes on this chapter.
I know. Maeve's talking to Erewhon about needing to just get rid of Aelin. Like, that's her main goal at this point, is to end Brannon's bloodline, and they might only be able to do this by joining together. And here's how I'm going to do that. And she is going to gift him what we now learn are her Stygian spiders.
The Karen,
who are actually Karen Kui.
Karen Kui.
Karen Kui. Jesus. Yes. So she forms a portal, and she's bringing her lady spiders out to present to Erewhon, and says, like, I'm going to give you 6 of these, and they can join. Your Valg princesses, they will be their hosts. And your Valg princesses, my spiders, can join together and be all powerful in this war. And he's kind of, like, interested because they're immortal, they're super powerful, and they'll do anything that Maeve tells them. He sends her off, and then we see Dorian's try and, like, scuttle out as a mouse, and he's kind of running away, but he's just also trying to, like, follow Maeve and see where she's going. And as he's trying to, like, get past the door, she steps on him, and Maeve says, "You're not very a skilled spy, King of Aderlin." And Maeve catches Dorian, and we're like, oh crap. Oh crap.
He instantly got caught.
Like, instantly within, he's been here for all of less than 2 chapters, and he's been caught by Maeve of all people.
Yeah. But at first, Erewhon didn't know who she was. She's been in hiding.
Okay, this was my point too.
Like, she's been in hiding this whole time. Like, duh, we knew that. But I was still surprised while reading it for some reason that she was like, oh, you don't know who I am, do you? And he was like, what? Aren't you the Queen of Dornell? And she was like, I fooled you this whole time. And he was like, what? Maeve, what are you doing?
Thank you. I feel so validated, because I was like, I didn't know Erewhon didn't know who Maeve's persona was. I am dumb.
But it makes sense. And I'm not surprised at that, but I also didn't think about it.
Yes.
Okay.
We're on the same page.
Okay, cool.
Because I was like, wait. I was so confused. But then like, right, because he would have done something.
Yeah.
They would have, gone after, I don't know.
They would have butt heads earlier.
Yeah. And so, she's, I'm Queen of Dornell no longer. And I said, that's
she
right,
dropped that
bitch.
bomb.
Yeah.
Like, there was, like, a lot of notes all in one that Dorian was probably just like.
And it just, I love this
poor mouse
POV
form.
was so great. And, like, getting it straight from them, who they were both so casual in their speak. She's like, oh, yeah, I don't have, that's how I picture it.
I no longer have a throne.
Yeah, all of my people betrayed me, and, all I have are these spiders who will do anything I say, and they can be your princess's hosts. And I was like, oh, God, this is so creepy. It happened.
And he dropped the bomb of, he proposed to Maeve before Orcus did. And she said no. But she said something of like, oh, I should have accepted your offer when I had the chance or something.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what I hate about this set of chapters is I'm so interested in Maeve's story. I want to know.
I want a prequel.
I want to know the whole backstory. I love how the female versions
of everything
are more powerful.
Yeah.
Like the Valg princesses are more powerful. These spiders are all female and they're all amazing. Like we think back to when the witches like got out their brooms and their capes and all the husbands were just like, what?
What's going on?
It's just the best. I mean, you can't ask for anything better.
Yeah, it is true. Of like back in Tower of Dawn when she was infested with this Valg princess and she was like, and they were like, oh my God, are you a Valg prince? Like you infested the princess? And she's like, nah, bitch, I'm a Valg princess. I'm even more powerful. And they're all like, what?
I know. It's so good.
In this one little chapter, Dorian thought of Kael twice.
In 71?
Uh-huh. No, in 70.
Oh, when did he do it? I'm not.
This is how Dorian also learns that Rowan found her and Aelin escaped. Because she's
they found her. Somehow they'd found her in Aniel. Did he dare hope Kael might also be there? Yeah.
Like, didn't waste a second. Barely finished his thought. She's like, oh, she escaped. Is
Kael there? And then, at the end of 605.
When he thought of it again, yeah.
Valg princesses in the southern continent. Kael.
And
that's it.
I loved it.
She's really ramping this up to be like, if they don't reunite and something happens before before they reunite, I'm going to.
I know. They better both
not
just like cry in each other's arms for like 5 days.
Just let it happen. It's fine.
Everyone needs to leave.
Everyone wants it. Yeah.
I really hated that some of these chapters made me like kind of like Maeve a little bit.
I think that's totally purposeful, and I agree. I was like very invested in her.
Yeah. Which
is crazy given what she's done the last mere chapters ago. It's crazy.
Okay. 71. My first note, I'm sorry, is she literally not just Rhys?
I mean, we don't know. Side note, real quick, someone on TikTok today was like, don't you think it's weird that Rhys won't tell Feyre his family name? And I'm like, yeah, it is. Valg.
All of my last name is
Rhys Valg.
Well, what's Maeve's last name? Does she have one? We don't know.
Valg.
Erwan Valg.
Anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Weird.
Maybe she left it open-ended for a reason.
Yeah.
God, I cannot wait for this next book. I
keep forgetting that there's going to be more. I keep forgetting.
Explode!
We're going to be...
I will be unfathomable.
We're going to have to take a week off of work just to, like, ponder and...
We've laughed at those people before, but, like, I 1,000% will do it. I will take off work. I am going to shut myself away. That's when we can do our 24-hour readathon.
100%. Oh, my God.
Anyway.
Okay. Whew.
We're coming back.
Side rant. Yep.
Yeah, because her powers are just so similar to those of the High Lord of the Night Court.
Indeed.
So, Maeve instantly knew who he was because she
Serene.
knew fucking Serene. But no, she knew what his power felt like through her invading Aelin's mind.
That's crazy.
So she could tell that he was in the room with them when he was spying on their conversation because she could feel his power.
Energy, power.
And she knew what that felt like.
Inception of the mind.
I was gonna, like, that's too many. I was like, hold on.
I know.
So, yeah, that's when we learned that Serene was sent as a spy for Maeve.
Everyone's got a freaking plan.
I was like, everyone's connected. Even this freaking spider that was only here for one day.
We thought it was just the spider silk that Manon stole. Nope.
Yeah, and then Dorian, in his thoughts, he was like, I don't regret killing her one bit.
Ugh, he's so sassy. I love him.
Maeve already knows about the word keys, again, because of invading Aylin's mind, and that Dorian has the other two. So she also came to Morath at the same time, because now that she's not Queen of Dornell anymore, she also wanted to find the third key.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, look at him using his mental shields.
I know. Also, very... It's giving Fairies training.
Yeah.
It's all way too similar.
So she tried to use her power to kind of peek into his brain and his power, but he instantly threw up a shield of ice in his brain. But because he's still getting used to his powers, which I loved this detail, he also did it like around the room too. And she was like a bit dramatic, and he's like really broody. I love it. And so she's trying to explain to him that, fine, you may think I'm evil, but I'm not as bad as those 3 Valg princes. Kings? The 3 of them? Is Erewhon a Valg prince?
I've been calling him a king.
He's a king. And she said I would make sure Erewhon and his brothers would never return if I got those keys. And because he has Damaris, like we always knew, like this little sword friend is going to be like such a handy little tool.
Yeah.
He knew that she wasn't lying.
Yeah.
Like, she may have tortured Aylin and is evil in her own ways, but she's a better evil than these guys.
Right.
This is when suddenly, all of a sudden, we were like, Dorian, what the fuck are you doing? Because he starts slowly kind of turning and talking with Maeve and says, you know what? You're not wrong that Aylin has like a special ability of wrecking other people's kingdoms and leaving them to clean up the mess.
I know.
And she was like, you're right. And I was like,
Excuse me?
So then Maeve was trying to kind of talk shit about Aylin and get him on her side. And he was combating it a little bit.
Yeah.
But kind of with like that statement and stuff, like leaning into it.
Being careful. Yeah.
Yeah. But then he pulled one out of Manon's book and said, what if he didn't only ally with me, but with Adarlan itself? And I shall make you queen.
And I died again.
And he said, you're not a queen of Dornell anymore, but I could make you queen again. I said, this has to be a trick, right? So basically that's their conversation, and they kind of come to a deal. So then Dorian is stalking around Morath again, and this time he finds Vernon, who is Elide's uncle, studies him, listens to him, and then we find out that's because he wants to shift into him. So that he shifts into Vernon and finds Erewhon. As Vernon, he tries to have a conversation with him and approaches him and asks a lot of questions and learns that Erewhon and his brothers have always planned on conquering this world. And because they got sent away, Erewhon's trying to do it on his own to kind of like honor them. And then once he does conquer it, he wants to find a way to bring them back. And he said specifically to add to their collection, meaning that they've conquered multiple worlds before.
Yes.
Oh, and Erewhon is kind of just almost rolling his eyes at Vernon. He even said to him, "Is like, you killed your brother, but I love my brothers dearly." So like he truly thinks like he's doing this just based off of love and the love in his heart. Erewhon talked about Elide and saying she was a failure. His bloodline with Elide ended up failing him. So I think I'm still curious on like, what was the grand plan for her? Like, what are we still missing? Were they trying to like infest her with a Valg princess and it didn't work?
Probably, yeah. If she's got witch blood in her as well.
And then Dorian could not let it go. He almost let Aaron walk away, but still in his Vernon form, he asked about his papa.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, what about the king? Like, did he ever bow to you? And Erewhon kind of seemed annoyed and said, like, he never bowed to me completely. And that was kind of the conversation.
Yeah. Crazy.
I know.
Crazy chapter. I know. I was very upset with the whole marriage offering. I was like, absolutely not. 2 chapters ago. I mean, I get it. I at this point, I think I was sort of like, I'm still believing that he's trying to trap her. Or like he's trying, not trap her, but he's trying to like swindle her.
Yeah, they're both trying to trick each other, right? Because I was like, there's no way our Dorian's just going to like mess with us like this.
Yeah, I know. I said this is a super surprisingly interesting matchup. My notes are all just like, damn, wasn't expecting this at all. Ew, I don't like this. Oh no, what?
Ew.
I always have one chapter worth of notes where it's just like, what? Just yet again a matchup that I was not anticipating in whatsoever. I thought, okay, once she comes about again, she's going to be so full of rage.
For what?
The next time we see Maeve, she's going to be so angry because of Aelin escaping that she's just going to be on like a terror train. Like,
I got you.
But instead, we actually get her in this like very calm, like scheming, kind of fun actually.
I know. Oh, like when she said, you are young and brash, and he said, I'm also exceedingly handsome.
He's just such a little shit. When she says, and Manon Blackbeak, what of your promises to her? I have made no promises regarding my throne, and she wants nothing to do with them anyway. I'm just so depressed.
I know.
I'm sad about it.
He did bring up his cousin Roland.
Yeah.
And I said, oh yeah, that dude.
Totally forgot about Roland.
He just left a Darlin at some point and we knew that he was going to Morath?
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
No, I was just like, he said his name and I was like, oh yeah, I do remember his cousin Roland.
Was he not taken as did he have a collar? Did he have a ring?
Maybe.
I think that's what this is mentioning.
He said, oh yeah, Roland, like he would have ended up here. I wonder if he's here. So as of right now, we think they are going to buddy it up.
I guess so. It's pretty crazy to me. Chapter 72. We are nearing the Farian Gap, so we're with Nezrin, Sartak, Aelin, Rowan, and that whole gang, Kale, Reen. They're all heading towards the Farian Gap. It is very cold. The wild folk are trying to help them through this, and the chapter starts off with the Aerial Legion flying into the Fangs between the Northern Fang and the Omega, where basically the Wyvern trainings would have been taking place, and they're looking for any enemy hosts that they can find. And within the first 2 pages of this chapter, it's Nezrin, Bort on their rucks, and they don't find anybody. There's literally nothing living in sight.
That's so sus.
And remind me, because geography, no good. This is supposed to have been where Petra was, right? The Blue Blood clan?
Oh, where they just were?
Right? Where Dorian and Manon
went to the Farian Gap.
The Omega, yeah, because that's where they were.
Yeah, I didn't put that together.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so, this is what gets us.
That might be good.
Right, where you don't know, is this good or bad? Whether it's, Petra and her iron teeth flying north to fight or help. We don't know.
I didn't put that together.
Yeah, so Nezrin and Bort and the Aerial Legion find absolutely nothing there. They're all gone. And that's where that ends. And then we switch to Kale and company's perspective. And it just says, the White Fangs were utterly forgiving. Like, the mountains are not easy. The wild men are trying to keep them on track on pace here. But Kale has never been in this territory before. And so everyone's just sort of like roughing it right now. They're a day away from the gap. So a day away from where Nezrin and company just were. And they decide that they're going to need to camp in where they're at tonight. And we come upon this like really nice conversation between, I loved this. This is a conversation between Kale.
This almost made me cry.
Me too. Kale and Gavriel, of all people. And so the two of them are basically talking about Adian, and Gavriel is just saying how he wishes that he could have been a better father to him or been there for him. Kale obviously having just had this final like fight with his own father after all the fights we've seen him have with his father. It's just this nice moment of them sort of meeting in the middle and thinking of Adian, and Kale even saying like, I wish that I'd had a father like you. And it's just a really, really, really nice moment between these two like warriors. It's awesome. I mean, and it goes on for a couple pages. It's so nice. And, you know, Kale's like, wants to tell him like, you are enough. And Gavriel says, I shall endeavor to be worthy of my son. And it's just so nice. And then Nezrin and Bort fly back in and meet the company, and they just tell them there's really no one there. There's like some fires still going, like people had been there, but there are no witches or wyverns. And Sartek, she says that Sartek is already like has people on,
Of course he does.
on the investigation.
He's
trying
already
to
on
figure
it.
it out. And that's all of chapter 72. Yeah. So,
We did learn the name of one of the wild men.
yes.
Kai.
Yes. That was
Which
cool.
you always keep saying, like, if someone gets a name,
They're going to be important.
it's something.
It's
so,
true. That's very true.
But it's the only name of a wild folk that we have, so
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting that one of them got one at least.
He'll be the one that dies.
And then Kale,
Cow.
right? Kale did note he thinks and feels like the wild men agreed to send some along with them to actually help them further beyond the mountains that they were originally supposed to help them go.
Yes.
Because they wanted vengeance on all the witches that had hunted them this past spring and on Kaltane. Because that made me flashback memory moment of remember Queen of Shadows? Is that when all the Kaltane stuff happened?
Yeah.
I don't remember if she told like a lie or recalled the situation or who did. I think it was probably it was a Manon chapter. It was probably her POV. They took Kaltane with them to like one of their raids of one of the Wildmen folks like camps or villages. They took Kaltane and she like
blew it up.
deathly fired all of them.
Fired, yeah. It was like black fire.
Yeah.
So freaky.
Yeah. So that like made
Damn.
me think of all of that.
Dude, this is going to be so messy.
I know.
Wow, I didn't.
Because they want vengeance on all the witches, but Manon was part of all that, and they brought Kaltane too, so it's make it a little messy, yeah.
Right, and then this moment where all the witches are gone, I did immediately think Petra is going to go save the day, but we don't know what their decision was, because they're all clearly going north either way, whether it's to fight against
or with
Terrazin or with.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I was like, and Kale just missed Dorian by a few days. Probably longer, but still.
I know, but
I was like, dang it.
I wish I had been so lucky to have you as my father.
This was like, again, sort of an unexpected pairing.
A little duo.
To have this whole conversation.
But while reading this, I didn't even remember that, like, Kale knows Adian.
That's what I wrote.
Oh, really?
I literally said, I forget that Kale has a relationship with Adian. Like, from all of Air of Fire.
Yeah.
Them forming this alliance and this rebellion and everything.
And even before then, like, he didn't
Oh yeah.
Like
being
he
in
would
court.
come, like before Aelin, Selena ever got out of
he was like,
Indovier and
this
all of it.
Aedion
Yeah.
bitch. Yeah.
Because he was all cocky and pompous and would show up with his mundane.
I forget that Aedion had a whole ass past with Adderley.
Because I was like, Kel's kind of being ballsy towards Gabriel right now, talking about Aedion. But I was like, he has a whole relationship with him.
He knows him in all kinds of different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true. And Aedion really would have been the one that changed him. He changed Kale's, perspective on... I think he was a huge part of why Kale...
In Queen of Shadow...
changed.
Or Air of Fire.
Or grew, anyway. Air of Fire, really, because...
I'm trying to remember where everything
I know.
In Air of Fire, yeah.
Because he was chasing after Aedion. And he was like, I'm sus of this guy. He thought he had a ring.
Oh, yeah.
I know. So he was like, I'm going to get... And then turns out Aedion...
He followed him because he found out that he was leading a secret.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he...
Yeah.
Ren.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because Aedion was already working with Ren and the others.
Mm-hmm. I know. It's all...
So much...
so much lore.
It's too much lore.
So anyway, that makes this conversation like so meaningful. Deep. And he is the one person who could give Gabriel some insight into his son.
Because he said, I hope he forgives me. And Kel was like, I'll make him. And I was like...
Yeah, I know.
But like, they have a whole ass relationship.
Like before
anyone
did as an adult. Yeah, it's interesting.
So
it was so nice. And the connection also deeper than that, where the two of them can connect as like a lost son, lost father kind of thing. It's so beautiful.
He's gonna be a dad, so he's
gonna be a dad.
Looks up to her.
It's just there's so much there. It's like, how does she do this?
Yeah, that conversation was too much for me.
I know.
Chapter 73.
Yay!
Dorian spent days shifting into different bodies to spy around Morath.
Yep.
Eventually, Maeve did bring the spiders to host all the Valg princesses, but Dorian hasn't seen or really heard anything about that side of it yet. Dorian, he kind of felt like he could feel the presence of the key, the word key, because he's felt the presence of the other two. So he kind of felt like he was feeling it, but every time he would try to kind of follow it around, it would then just dissipate again, and he was kind of very confused and lost.
Yeah.
And couldn't find it. He did find a room all the way at the bottom of the keep, a door that was locked, and he did get in. I think he shifted to a little gnat or something, as small as he possibly could be, to fly through a little crack where all the word collars were kept. And in the middle was Erewhon's tomb. Spooky.
It's very spooky. Very, very scary spooky.
So at this point, Dorian practically has a panic attack and is flying around as a tiny little gnat. Full-blown panic attack. He's feeling too much, almost power and presence in the room. Kind of just holding him in there almost. Because there was just so much magic surging and he was kind of getting too overwhelmed. And then eventually he ends up getting almost by wind or power of some sort, getting pulled out of the room. And Maeve pulls him and grabs him by the tiny little gnat wings and calls him a fool or an idiot. What does she call him?
Yeah.
And she told him basically what he felt in there is what she felt every single day, and that's why she left their world.
Yeah.
So I was stop making me sympathize with you.
I know. She
did, again, in another conversation note, I wonder if some Valg did cross over to you, because she said, you're quite interesting, boy. And apparently Erewhon, again, they noted that he is the mildest of the three brothers, and Orcus and Mantix are even worse, considering their names. Maeve mentioned that she usually keeps a fey female by her side at all times. She's similar but different powers than Aelin, but she didn't risk bringing her here to Morath. But she did note that the Fae female has taken her blood oath.
Yep.
So she at least has one more Fae.
Isn't it the owl?
I think so. But they keep saying that an owl is a healer.
Yes, that's right.
So it's like a healer Fae? Is it like an even more powerful healer?
Yeah.
Because she's Fae too?
Yeah.
Yeah. She explained that Valg's souls have a shape.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
But I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But I didn't really know what to take from that. And so Dorian asked, like, what do they look like? And she just said you would find them displeasing. Is all she said. So they try and come up with a plan to distract Erewhon so Dorian can sneak into his tower/bedroom pretty much and find the word key, because he's almost positive that's where it would be, because it's the one place over the past few days he hasn't looked.
Yeah.
So they come up with a plan that Maeve is going to try and seduce Erewhon to distract him.
Mm-hmm.
So then Dorian can sneak into the room. And Maeve just said, you are not going to like what you see.
Yes, a lot of learning. Valglore, yeah, which is very interesting. I'm just like, it's hard to retain it all, really.
I know.
It really is. But, yeah, this, like, part of me that just wants to know more about Maeve and also is feeling, you know, you put her up against 3 men, pretty terrible sounding men, and you're like, okay, I like get it to an extent, but also like, if you didn't want to be like them, you should have changed
like
your
that?
ways.
I know.
I'm just saying. So anyway, yeah, it was an interesting insight into the sarcophagus room. Was scary. And yeah, just again, it's like how we were talking earlier. It's like you just forget about things that have happened. Yeah. And not that I forgot that there was a collar, that Dorian had a collar on him, but you know, it's just so much progress has been made by him, and now he's having to sit here and like remember all of that.
We met him before he even knew he had powers.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. So just to see him in that room and like him see all those collars and wonder, is there another one in here for me? Is there one for Aelin? And it's just like terrible.
I know.
So, and him wanting to just like destroy it so badly. We love you, Dorian.
Dorian.
It's not pretty. So she comes in as herself first, right?
But she like put on a cute.
So Maeve puts on like this pretty spooky slinky gown.
Spooky.
And she's like presenting herself to Erewhon, and she's gonna like seduce him. And then she learns quickly that he's not really interested. Like
he loves his brother so much.
Yeah, he's like weirdly, for being so evil, like he's weirdly like loyal to his brothers and like not about it. And so she does the unthinkable and she transforms herself into Aelin. And just like, what the hell? And she's like, would this appeal to you? And then she transforms again into Manon. And she's like, or maybe your wing leader, who maybe you thought you would take as your like queen all along.
What a bomb.
And that's when Dorian like just enters into this like rage internally, of course. It is terrible. But then it's also like this thought of like, well, but if it gets him into the tower, it's like this whole thing they're having to grapple with. But Erewhon doesn't take the bait, and he just says like, oh, you're still my brother's wife, so I could never. It's like, okay, dude. He shuts the door on her, and then it's the next day, and Maeve is going to try another meeting with Erewhon, and it turned. Are we saying it right, or are we just saying it like the grocery store?
Erewhon.
I'm just going to keep saying Erewhon.
Erewhon.
Okay. So it's the next day, and we learn that Erewhon tried sending like someone to Maeve for her to have her fun with, and she's, she doesn't do anything. But she goes to another meeting with Erewhon, and she brings Dorian with her as a little mouse in her pocket. And and Erewhon's like, you turned away what I sent you. And they get into this conversation about what's going to happen next with their alliance. Erewhon's, of course, saying, the 6 spiders are not enough. I want all of the Karen Kui. Kui sounds weird, but it's how it's spelled.
I don't.
Whatever. Bring the rest of the spiders. I want you to open the portal and just bring them all here right now. And she goes, they're not all going to be very willing to do that, just FYI. She says, even if I do this, there's still a chance we could fail against Aelin. So maybe you and I together could win without the spiders, without the princesses. She might not be able to fight us both, and the 2 of us could just go there and take her down. And he's basically asking for proof that this alliance will work, and like that the 2 of them could actually defeat Aelin, just the 2 of them. And she says, I'll give you a show tomorrow. You don't know everything about portals, but I do, basically. I'm going to show you your brothers.
Yeah.
So intense. Mm-hmm.
And then in chapter 75, apparently Darrow and the other lords at least prepared Orinth well over the past few months. Mm-hmm. So they got a lot of supplies and everything situated and settled. Oh, I did flag this sweet just memory of Adian, just kind of like the backstory of him and Ren.
Yeah.
I didn't know they had such a history together of like their windows could see each other, so they used to develop like a secret sign to each other and like things like that.
So sweet.
And then Adian was thinking of Gavriel. Adian, Lysandra, and the Silent Assassins with Elias ended up going on a secret night mission.
Whoop whoop.
And Lysandra shifted into a enormous badger and she dug holes. This whole time I was like, wait, what is happening?
What is she doing?
It took me a second to realize. And then the Silent Assassins and the Mycenians. They laid traps in all of those holes and then filled them back up, I think. Yes, they laid traps in all of those holes, and they finished right before the sun came back up. And then Morath's army appeared the next day, and Ansel's counting like tens of thousands of lines of soldiers are just
she keeps
showing
counting.
up. She keeps counting, and guess who is a little flirty?
I wonder who.
It's Rolf and Ansel.
Yay!
She just kept counting out loud, and Rolf was like, "We all can count the lines." And she goes, "Oh, you can?" And they all kind of laughed a little bit, but they were flirting. I told you.
I love
it. Started to see witch towers appear, and so they're all standing like on the battlements or like out of a window. I don't remember, but they're all looking out and they see all these soldiers like starting to appear. And then Evangeli's standing there next to Lysandra, and she's like getting really scared, and she's just watching all of them too. And then the witch towers start to get close enough that they set off the traps that they just laid the night before, where some of the silent assassins and the Mycenians and the Mycenians are like hiding down near those traps, and they shoot flaming arrows. And basically, they wait for the witch towers to get right over where those holes are, and they explode 2 of them.
Yeah.
So they...
2 out of the 3, right?
Yes, blew up 2 out of 3 of the witch towers because they filled those holes with like chemicals and powders. And then at the very end of the chapter, Ansel counts 100,000 Morath soldiers.
But... help is on the way.
They don't know that yet.
I believe. At least the Krokans.
Yeah.
Oh, Evangeline is just so...
I know.
I hate her being there.
She should not be there.
Lysandra saying, no harm will come to you.
I know.
Yeah. But great about the witch towers. Wish they had gotten all 3, but whatever.
I know that's going to bite them in the ass later, and I'm nervous about it.
I know. Chapter 76. So we're back in Morath with Maeve and Dorian. And Maeve is going over her plan to trick Erewhon into basically seeing an illusion of his brothers using mirrors. Sort of like the ones that Aelin and Manon used back in Empire of Storms. So the use of witch mirrors are going to allow Erewhon to see what he wants to see, basically. And this is going to be a distraction while Dorian steps through another portal into Erewhon's chambers, essentially, to find the word key. And then we get a sort of a nice soft spot from Maeve, because Dorian says something... They're talking about her spiders, and he's like, why wouldn't you just, like, allow him to use all of them from the start? And she says that she doesn't want her handmaidens to just come here and be his mere foot soldiers. And Dorian notices that she cares about them, and she says, you will find, your majesty, that a loyal friend is a rare thing indeed. They are not so easy to sacrifice. Aww. And I'm like, I'm sure that strikes a chord with Dorian. Smart move, Maeve. Anyway, they finish kind of grappling with their plan, and they plan to do it at nightfall. That's when Maeve and Erewhon meet, and the portal is prepared for Dorian to step into Erewhon's tower. Dorian draws his sword. He sees the portal appear, and he steps through.
In Erewhon's form.
As Erewhon, yeah. He does shift into Erewhon, that's right.
That's gotta feel weird.
Yeah, like,
creepy.
It's a very multi-layered situation here. Dorian stepped back as the stones turned dark, 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 and then vanished. The stench of death, of a rot, of hate flowed out. Terrible. Hate this guy.
She did hate this guy.
I do.
She did tease to Dorian that Valg, or maybe her specifically, we don't know, taught the witches how to use those mirrors.
That's right. That's a good point. Mm-hmm.
So... interesting.
Yes, all of these magical trinkets have to come into play in order to save the world without having to make a sacrifice. That's my belief. With the mirrors together and everyone learning how to use word marks and gates and writings.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Ooh, maybe was this time for Dorian to, like, learn some intel about the mirrors and how to use them?
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what this is all, been all about. Is like, that's what Tower of Dawn was for. I mean, they learned so much about the Valg there, and they brought it with them, and that's helped people, like, move forward. And so I can only imagine that, Dorian's going to take all of this information with him. Yeah. Hopefully, if he makes it out. So, yeah.
Ugh, this chapter.
I know.
So the last chapter, for chapter 77, Dorian was surprised when he stepped through the portal and he just saw, like, a normal room. It was just like a bedroom, and he was like, oh. Like all of us, we're expecting everyone to, like, probably sleep upside down like a bat. Or
in like a coffin. Yeah.
So it was just a normal looking room. And he's looking around and starts looking and shuffling through things and can't really find anything. And suddenly he notices there was a young girl, like, laying in the bed the whole time that he, like, didn't notice at first. And he said it looked identical as a near twin to Kaltain. So Erewhon has a type.
Oy.
And she had a collar around her neck with a terrible scar on her wrist. The word key must be in her arm, just like it was for Kaltain. Because Alide and Manon told him about what happened with Kaltain. She took the second word key out of her arm and, like, gave it to them. So he whips out a knife and in his Erewhon form, like, orders this girl to, like, give him her arm. And of course she listens. And first he used the knife that Sorrel gave him, which is sweet. And he cut the key out of her arm. And then with his healing abilities, just, like, healed it right back up. Mm-hmm. But then for a brief moment, for some how she, the normal human, breaks out and she started begging him to kill her because she just wanted to get out of there. And he thought of two people that were most important to him. He thought of what Manon would do and then what Kale would do, and he knew what each of them would do. He was like very confident. He knew that Manon would not hesitate and would kill her and give her, you know, that freedom. He knew Kale would try to take her with him and like try to escape with her to try and help her. And then he had a brief moment of like, I wasn't really sure like what Aelin would do.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know, who do you wish to be? So he was trying to compare all these like other examples of other people in his mind. He started to hesitate, but he knew he had to hurry and get out. And then out of nowhere, her neck snapped and Maeve stepped through the portal and killed her. And she said, I was just trying to spare you from that rough decision you looked like you were having. Oh, and then it ends with just say, I said, what do you mean snared in her dark web? I was like, what does this mean?
I know.
And then I'm worried, like, now that he has the key, is she just going to instantly betray him?
That's what I thought. That's what I gathered at the end of this chunk. I was like, I said, Maeve, trap, fuck. I know, I don't want to believe that she's got the better of him at this point, but that's what it, ending it on this note, it seems to be that way.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Kind of exciting. I'm glad that he actually was able to get the key. That's huge.
Yeah.
Awful about that girl. Terrible.
Maeve had, like, no regard.
Consider it a wedding gift, Majesty, to spare you from that decision.
I love it.
Like, no!
She's so thoughtful.
Interesting. Yeah, what's going to happen to Dorian?
I know.
I mean, we can't have another capture hostage situation. Like, it just can't happen.
We don't have enough time.
There's not enough time. He's got to get out of this. Yeah, there's no redemption arc here for her, I don't think.
I think these couple of chapters tried to, like, lead us to maybe there would be. But, like, this last sentence, you're like, oh, there's not.
Exactly. Okay, anyway. That's chapters 67 through 77. And now we have to do our Fan Ghoul questions of the week. So we're going to start with our Fangirl Pick of the Week. Or our most valuable character of the week.
Who was yours?
Should we just say it on 3?
Oh.
3, 2, 1.
Dorian!
It has to be Dorian.
He's such a big boy now.
He's just the star of the show, first of all. He's got the biggest chunk of these chapters. But more than that,
he found the word key, dude.
And I am obsessed with his character just totally coming to fruition from, like, he is utilizing his knowledge of the Valg, that, like, feeling of being Valg for a while. Him having all this power, having new power, and now also bringing in that old school, like, scheming Dorian from the earlier books. And it's just making him who he is now. Yeah. And he's such a great character.
I know.
Him being able to go head to head with Maeve is something I don't think Aelin could even do.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
He, without hesitation, met her on her level and
right away
knew what to do.
Yeah, no hesitation. They think alike.
Yeah.
He thinks like them. It's very interesting.
Maybe they're related.
I don't, yeah.
Maybe his last name is Dorian Valg.
Dorian Valg. Dorian Havelvalg.
What is your ghoulish gripe?
I hate myself for enjoying the Dorian and Maeve team up vibes, is what I wrote.
It was kind of fun, yeah.
I was like, I think it's such a smart move. I mean, all of these characters are getting intertwined with one another, which makes for such a great story. But this was so unexpected.
I didn't think she would get intertwined with anyone but Aelin.
I'm thinking maybe he'll meet some new characters in Morath. Like, we're just going to see Morath anew after the Keltane. Maybe just some more Erewhon stuff. I was not expecting
Mostly Maeve.
Mostly Maeve, and a totally different
Mostly
side of her.
Maeve.
Mostly Maeve. That's her sitcom. Oh, God. Mostly Maeve. What was your ghoulish gripe?
I underlined the whole thing. I do not like this thought / plan that Aylin suddenly had come across her mind about Irene. I don't even like that it crossed her mind. I don't like that it's a thought. I don't like that she said it out loud to Rowan.
Because
it makes me uncomfy.
And it also doesn't necessarily resolve the prophecy or whatever that at the end of the day, the gods are still calling for a sacrifice of her or Dorian.
Yeah.
Of their bloodline.
Yeah.
So you're just going to try it with Irene first and then see if it sticks.
Like, yeah, is the problem like, okay, well, I don't want to sacrifice myself or Dorian. So, like, how about Irene?
The pregnant lady.
But do they not know about the life bond? So does she not know that if Irene dies, not only does the baby, but so does Ghoul?
I don't know.
I don't think they've told anyone.
They didn't cover that.
So I'm like, that's not even a thought any of us should be having.
No.
I don't like that they're a part of any of this.
Dorian would never allow that to be the option.
What I'm saying. He doesn't even know he's married.
Aylin needs to... This isn't just her decision. It's like it has to be between the two potential sacrifices. Like they have to be.
That's why she's holding off. Yeah,
she has to.
Yeah, I know.
What is your fangirl fantasy?
Oh, I'm really hoping that maybe in this next chunk or two, because we're getting near the end, that we find out that something about Elide.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, in this conversation with Dorian Vernon, and Erewhon,
they really wanted to use her.
Yeah, he said, like, your niece and your bloodline disappointed me, and, like, the plan didn't happen the way they wanted it to. Like, what was this? There's something bothering me about it.
Definitely. It's a whole mystery.
So I'm ready to find that out. / this also just has to be when we get one of the final big reunions. So I'm excited for that. Whether it's Dorian with someone now that he has the word key, or for anyone to come meet up with Adian and Lysandra and that crew.
Please.
And dear God, help them. What about you?
I want Dorian to become the Valg King. And
what?
Yeah, not like an evil Valg King, but like be the Valg King that he so clearly is, in my opinion.
Whoa.
And make it anew. Start it over for this group of beings. Because he can be the Valk King and Manon will be the Witch Queen. And together they will dominate the earth.
I love it.
Me too. I'm really hopeful.
That's a big ask.
Is it?
For him to take over the Valg?
I just think...
His name is Dorian Valg.
Dorian Hevelvalg. We learned a lot. This chunk was very dark.
I feel like this was the best. This was the last big section that we're going to have in this series of like, here's this information.
Like exposition.
And then, now that he found this last word key, that next step, what we find out he's about to do.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it's, you know what I mean? Like this is like the last, they got the key, Aylin and all them are heading north. Like there's nothing else left to.
It's all coming to the final.
Yeah.
The final 100 pages.
Is the final countdown.
Great. All right, everyone. Well, that was chapters 67 through 77.
Yay.
Next week, we're going to have read chapters 78 through 88, which is crazy.
I know.
And we'll do all of our fangirl questions of the week. We'll come with our fangirl moments of the week at the beginning of the episode. All that jazz. So join us on Monday for that.
Yay.
And on that note, this meeting of the Fan Ghouls Club is adjourned.
Yes.
Good night.
Good night.
You wanted a high five? Bye.